3, 4.
Good morning, everyone. Oy vey. Hi, everyone. This is Jewish Talk. And I'm coming to you live from Nassau Community College on 90.3 WHPC. Also streaming on the iHeart and iTunes apps. And we can be seen right here in the studios on my Facebook Live page and also on WHPC's Facebook Live page. Hello, everybody. I'm waving. Hello, everybody. This program is later archived on Spreaker.com. So hi there. My name is Rabbi Pearl. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This all depends on when you are listening. And good morning to Bill Brickner, to Harvey Kipnis, to Louis Pushkin, and to everybody out there joining us. Well, Mother's Day today, and every day, of course. Good morning to Gus. It was great to see your daughter coming to our synagogue. And to Jean, good morning, and to Lori Sue, Dr. Kilshevsky. So, my friends, I was asked this question. Why should I celebrate Mother's Day? I really don't love my mother. She's so critical of me. Oh, yeah, I carry so much baggage. Let me tell you something. I want to share with you, please. I want to share with you. Don't take this attitude. You see, in every language, mum stands with the letter M. Right? Let's go through a couple. In French, mère. In Spanish, madre. In Mandarin, I know that's a language that's spoken all over Long Island, is mutzen. In Russian, mat. All of this, in every language, English, Spanish, every language, check out. The word for mother always starts with an M. Because most of the languages come from the earliest language, the Hebrew language, which, of course, in Hebrew, the Hebrew word for mother is aim. Aim, or ima in Yiddish or Hebrew, has a mem in it, an M. Now, the word mem, or M, in Hebrew, means from. Me'ur kastim. And those who speak Hebrew know that whenever you want to emphasize something comes from, you start with an M. And so, too, the Hebrew word for mother has the letter M, because it's from our mother that so much comes. And therefore, on this day, and every day, when we honor our mothers, remember, as much as you have baggage or whatever, you have some negative feelings, loosen up. Loosen up, my friends. And just to take it one step further, the same Hebrew word that means mother, ima, or aim, is the same root for the letters for emunah. The root of the word emunah, which means faith, the root is aim. The same root for the word mother, aim, also means amen. Amen, which is a blessing, an answer to a blessing. And also the root of the word truth is emes, aim. So, my friends, before you get upset with your mother or feel you shouldn't honor her, stop. Remember, from your dear mother, you came. You came from your mother. You were born. You were alive. Your mother held you. She taught you so much that comes from our mothers. So, let me share with you a little poem in honor of Mother's Day. If I could give you diamonds for each tear you cried for me, if I could five you sapphires for each truth you helped me see, if I could give you rubies for the heartache that you've known, if I would give you pearls for the wisdom that you have shown, then you'll have a treasure, Mother, that would mount up to the skies, that would almost match the sparkle in your kind and loving eyes. But I have no pearls, no diamonds, and I'm sure you're well aware. So I'll give you gifts more precious, my devotion, love, and care. So if you're watching us, you can post up on our Facebook. I want to say hello to Holly Karen. Holly, thank you. Good morning. Candy Rosen. And Dr. Kilshevsky is in Vermont because there's not enough snow in Connecticut. And Candy is actually watching us from Denver. Wow. And Karen, thank you so much. And Sean Novat. Sean, good morning. Sean, we all know who you are. Fantastic. Thank you for all that you do here at WHPC. And let's get to our program. You see, what I think is good, what I think is a good fit for today's plague of hate-driven violence that we see today. See, if you're a Jew in America today, there's a good chance you're concerned. First, the largest hate-driven massacre of Jews in American history occurred in Pittsburgh. Then, precisely 6 months later, with an almost identical fingerprint of hatred, the synagogue in Poway in Chabad in California. Now, whose problem is this? Let me tell you. My contention is that this is not a Jewish problem. It's a world problem. Both these attacks, along with many other violent crimes of hatred in recent days, are symptoms of a malicious disease spreading unabated in America, in Europe, and in the world at large. But that's a problem that we're all going to have to assist in healing, for our own best interest, as well as for the interest of this country and for the entire world. I would say America, in a certain sense, is suffering. You see, according to the FBI figures, hate crimes rose 70% last year, and with similar increases over the previous 2 years. All this while other forms of violent crime continue to decrease. So something's wrong. Why should hate crimes be? Now, is there a medicine for this plague? In the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s, violence was increasingly on the rampage all across America, in ways not seen since the days of the Wild West. And ideas for quick fixes and long-term solutions were abounded. So I want to share with you what the Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbi Nachum Mendel Schneerson, his prescription, his unique and counterintuitive response was to this. He said, and focused on, fix the educational system. How? Simple, the Rebbe says. Introduce a moment of silence every day into the school curriculum and take it seriously. Think about this. America is divided over gun law restrictions. But there is one point that enjoys universal consensus. And I hope you agree with me. Gun restrictions alone are not enough. Because the problem is not the gun. The problem is the mind of the person that holds the gun. And my question today is, what has the American school done for the mind of that criminal? Think. We taught him how human beings first appeared on the planet. Did we teach him to be a human being? Did we teach him to respect another human being? We taught him to use his mind to solve problems with numbers. Did we teach him to apply his mind rather than his fists to solve problems with people? We taught him anatomy, but did we teach him that a human life is more than just a sum of blood, guts, and bones? Or did we perhaps inadvertently teach him that the notion of a human soul has no place in an educated mind? Is that possible? That's creeped in. We taught him about laws and prisons. Did we teach him that even if you're so smart that you don't get caught, you're still wrong? Are we teaching our children to have a conscience? Did we ever demonstrate to him that there are things that really matter in life, more than maths, more than science, more than just getting a degree, even more than the niftiest of technology? Did we ever give him a chance to stop and think about himself or herself, about life, about family, about everything that bothers him in life? Is there a space and time for thinking about life in school? This is, my friends, that's what a moment of silence in school is all about. And it works wonders. Ask those who work in school where it is and has been implemented. They will tell you that a moment of silence means that a child will go home and ask Mammy and Daddy what he should think about. It means that a child will share with his teacher the troubles he's going through. It means the school becomes a place not just for the child's mind, but for his heart and his soul. So let's get this clear for those who are getting nervous. A moment of silence doesn't impose prayer or belief in a creator on anyone. But it opens the child's mind to search for meaning and hopefully for God's presence in the world. And there's a good chance the child will talk to the parents and grandparents and discover that they once had faith in their minds too. So as the Rebbe would say, let America's schools nurture the humanness of America's children. Let children know the meaning of silence, just enough silence that they can hear their own hearts pounding inside. I want to say welcome to everybody listening to us on WHPC, watching us on the HPC Facebook page, Rabbi Pearl's Facebook page, and I'm waving to everybody. Thank you so much. It's good to have you. And let's take a look to see who's joined us here as we get comments constantly. Zalman, good morning. Zalman, thank you. And Abner Zarabi says shalom. Dr. Stephen Mark from Newton, Massachusetts. Wow. Doug Ugent has joined us. Shlomo Landa. Wow. And from Boston, excuse me, Ronald Ray is, wow. He's watching us in the Philippines. You hear that? Philippines. I'm going to give you an extra wave there for Philippines. How do you say mommy in Filipino? I'm sure it's also an Orly Sofa. Orly, good morning, Orly. We have such an honor to have you a part of our shul and to say hello to Yecheskel. He did a fantastic Haftorah yesterday. Another area of life that I think that relates to the world that we're living in today is how we judge other people. Yeah, my friends, it's a problem. In the Torah portion we read yesterday, it's called Kedoshim. It contains a commandment that we often do not think much about. I'll first share the words. With justice you shall judge your fellow man. Now the Talmud gives two opinions of what this means. With justice you shall judge your fellow man. One opinion is simply, it's talking to judges. The judges are sitting in Mineola, wherever it is. When a person comes to a judgment in a civil case, according to Torah law, the judge must treat the litigants equally. He's not allowed to have one litigant stand and the other one sit. He allows one to speak at length and the other one he pushes off to speak briefly. There has to be equality. That's one understanding in the Talmud. But there's a second one. The second interpretation of the Talmud is that when it talks about judging our fellow with justice, is talking to you and me. That every single one of us, in the course of our life, must also learn to be careful how we judge others. Judge your fellow man to the side of merit. And this is a similar that we read in the Ethics of the Fathers. Don es kalodom lekafschus. You should judge every person to the side of merit. But what does this mean? What does that mean? You know, the first, my friend, is to change the instinct to condemn. On the most basic level, it cautions us to give people the benefit of the doubt. If we see a person doing something that apparently seems to be an act that he or she should not be doing, guess what? There's a fully fledged biblical command to give the person the benefit of the doubt. Now, let's say you observe another person doing or saying something we perceive as destructive, undesirable. So, what's the typical reaction? Instinctively, we assume that negative motives are compelling these acts and words. We naturally believe that the person is aware of the damage he's creating. And despite this, he's doing it for his own benefit or for some agenda. I would say that this attitude and this reaction has plagued us for millennia and has caused untold harm and divisiveness in so many communities, in so many governments, in so many issues. Right today, just look at the uncivil political discourse going on. Everyone is trying to bury each other. So to learn to judge people favorably, to attribute positive or at least natural motives to people's acts and words is quite a deal. We should say to ourselves, his or her behavior might appear wrong, but in his own mind and heart, he really thinks he's doing the right thing. Now, if a person takes this approach of condemning the behavior, looking at the behavior, but not to condemn the person, has tremendous beneficial reasons, for two reasons. If you approach it to condemn the behavior, but not the person. You see, when you're able to alter your attitude, you will not become resentful. When you attribute evil motives to a person performing a negative act, what happens? We all know this. Our brain instinctively swells up with negative energy. He's full of it. He's this and he's that. Right? All negative things because he's got this agenda and he's saying these things. But if a person trains themselves to view negativity in what we see as not being the person, you train yourself to view the person unlike his behavior, and you think of the person as in the positive light, you save yourself, your heart, from being consumed with ire and anger. And if you don't condemn the person, but just the actions, and the person knows that you are upset with his actions or what he said, but you're not writing him off or her off, you're going to be in a much better position to communicate your feelings to this person without compelling him to construct, those defense mechanisms and reciprocate your rebuke, with typical stubbornness and anger. Oh, you tell me what to do. I came out of the shul the other day, dear friends, and guy says, have a nice day. I said to him right away, don't tell me what to do. Just joking. Don't get so nervous, everybody. So when he feels that inside your heart you don't view him as a bad guy who craves destruction, only as a good guy who made an error, guess what? Your criticisms will most likely be more effective. Think about yourself. If someone approaches you and criticizes your behavior, when is he more likely to be successful? When he attributes negative motives to you or positive ones to you? The answer is more than obvious. This means that if you are truly bothered by what a person did, the best way to eliminate such behavior in the future is to judge him or her favorably. I want to tell you a story. This story goes back to the famous composer and storyteller, Rabbi Shlomo Carlebach. And he tells a story of a Shabbat that he spent in a community in post-war Europe. When he came to shul on the Shabbat, he was disappointed in the cantor. The man was skipping words, had a very feeble, timorous voice. Worse still, his pronunciation of the Hebrew text was dreadful. So Carlebach thought to himself, that's a terrible cantor. He must have paid off the synagogue to let him pray. He was so disgusted, he decided to go to a side room and pray alone. He would only come to the main shul to listen to the Torah reading. When he returned for the Torah reading, he noticed that the cantor holding the Torah, leading it to the bima, was actually being supported by two people. And as he looked closer, he realized that this cantor was blind. Shlomo asked the person near to him who this cantor was, who this chazan was. And the man explained, before the war, he was the chief cantor of the grand Jewish community of Lemberg, Lvov, in Poland. When he conducted services there, his voice was as powerful as a lion's roar. It shook the very pillars of the synagogue and penetrated the heart of every worshipper. From all over Europe, people came to listen to his heart-stirring prayers. Then the Nazis came. The cantor was sent to Auschwitz, where he endured unspeakable torture. He became blind. He survived the death camp. But as he lost his vision, his voice, and his diction. Now, we always begged of him to pray for us, to lead us, the man says, but he always refused. But today he agreed. Shlomo wanted to bury himself for imminent shame. He was overwhelmed by a sense of guilt and shame. And what did he do? He waited for the old chazan to approach as he was walking now, being held by others with the Torah. And when he did, holding the Torah, Shlomo Carlebach kissed his saintly hands. And the cantor, sensing this, he says, Who just kissed my hands? And they told him Shlomo Carlebach. And the blind cantor said, I love your melodies. And Shlomo Carlebach responds in this story, at that moment, the cantor had given him back his soul. But he understood how careful, how rotten he felt, because he jumped to conclusions. And how many times do we too? Things happen, people say things, do things, and right away we feel like who knows what. Again, you're joining us. We're on WHPC. We can be heard on the radio all over the world. We can be seen on the Facebook Live at WHPC at the college's station. You can see it right now on my own page as well. And I want to say hello to all those joining us. Samantha Kennedy, she is watching us from the United Kingdom. My goodness. And to Ivy Danier. Excuse me, Ivy Danier, Shalom Aleichem. And wonderful. So we have people listening and watching us all over the world. This is really a big honor, and I thank you for that. And right now, we're discussing how careful we must be not to judge people negatively. Don't quick judge people. And I wanted to share with you a story that I just read from Steve Covey. He has a book called The 7 Habits. And he tells a story of traveling one Sunday morning on a subway in New York. People were sitting quietly, right? Some reading papers, some lost in thought, some resting with their eyes closed. It was a calm, peaceful scene. Then suddenly, a man comes in with his children, and they enter into the subway car. The children were so loud and rambunctious that instantly the entire climate changed. The man sat down next to me. He closed his eyes. He was oblivious to the situation. The children were yelling back and forth, throwing things, even grabbing people's newspapers. It was very disturbing. And yet the man sitting next to me did nothing. It was difficult not to feel irritated. I could not believe that he could be so insensitive as to let his children run wild-like and do nothing about it, taking no responsibility at all. It was easy to see that everybody in the subway felt irritated too. So finally, with what I felt was unusual patience and restraint, I turned to him and said, "Sir, your children are really disturbing a lot of people. I wonder if you couldn't control them a little bit." The man lifted up his gaze as if he'd come to his consciousness for the first time, and he said softly, "You know, you're right. I guess I should do something about this." Then he went on to say, "We just came from the hospital where their mother died about an hour ago. I don't know what to think. I guess they don't know how to handle it either." Can you imagine how I felt at that moment? Steve Covey concludes his story. This is the truth of life. We know nothing of the trials, the sorrows, the temptations of those around us, of pillows wet with sobs, of the life tragedy that may be hidden behind a smile, of the secret cares, the struggles, the worries that shorten life and leave their mark, and a character changed, and recreated in a few days, the things that people face. So my friends, let us not dare to add to the burden of another pain with our judgment. That's what the Torah is telling us this week. Let's think before we speak. We never know the whole story in that other person's life. Really not. So I would say in summation, the conventional understanding of what the Torah says, judge every person, being, for positivity, consists of 3 points. If you hear your fellow say something, or you see him do something, and you can interpret it as being moral or immoral, give him or her the benefit of the doubt. Think about the story I just shared with you of Shlomo Carlebach, who jumped to conclusions about this chazan who couldn't read Hebrew. Think about the story of Steve Covey, and when they found out, what they perceived was totally the opposite. Another thought I would share is that even if you know for sure that the person did or said something wrong, give him positive motives. He may think he's doing the right thing. Even if he knows that he's doing the wrong thing, still, my friends, be careful before judging. As our sages tell us, do not judge your fellow until you're in his place. And his place is one place where you will never be. You have no way of truly appreciating the manner in which his inborn nature, his background, his circumstances that have held him sway over his life, that have influenced his character and his behavior. His struggles are not mine. Perhaps if I would have the same struggles, I would behave just as bad or even worse. Yes, you may be an addict, and I'm not. But if I would have had the same sensitivities as you, if I would have endured the same abuse as you, am I so sure I would not hold my soul to addiction? And that's what we say, Havadon es kol adam lekaf zchus, which translate, the word kol adam means the whole person. Before we judge someone, you first have to know the whole person. Everything about the person, from their background to the workings of the inner psychic, to the challenges they are facing today. And I must tell you, let us learn to live this way, and all of us will have a happier life, besides being far more effective. And I want to share with you a story that I shared with our congregation yesterday at Chabad Mineola. You may have read recently that the Israeli government were able to secure the body of a lost soldier, Zachary Baumel. He had lost his life in the Lebanese war 37 years ago, and the Israeli Defense Force were unable to find his body. And it really was something that was on people's minds, certainly the family itself. And just recently, the body was reclaimed and found in Syria and brought to its proper burial in the military cemeteries in the land of Israel. There's a backstory to this, how this happened. At the funeral, the sister, Zachary's sister, shared with Bibi Netanyahu, the prime minister, that for many years the family held a terrible grudge against him as prime minister or the government for not having done more to find the brother's body. One day, she said, we decided enough of this grudge. We're going to drop this resentful feelings. Maybe the government is doing something. Guess what, she says. A few days later, after dropping the grudge, we had the happy news. At that moment, Bibi stepped in and said the following. You won't believe this, he says. I met with Putin from Russia, and we had helped the Russian government with some intelligence, and the government of Russia said, we'd like to reciprocate and do something for you. And we had 3 things we wanted from the Russian government that related to the land of Israel, I'm sure, to deal with security issues. And as he was standing there about to say that, the name of Zachary came to his mind. He said, it wasn't on my mind at that moment, but it came to my mind. Turns out the exact same time when you dropped your grudge, more or less, it came into my mind. And I asked Putin for this, and Putin said, no problem, we'll take care of that. But we'll be happy to do that, but there'll still be other things we want to do for you. That's the background of the story, my friends. At the same time as the sister dropped the grudge against Bibi as prime minister, thinking the government wasn't doing what it should, it's the same moment it just appeared in the mind. When he spoke to Putin, he had no intention of mentioning this, but the other things that could be helpful for the land of Israel. But at the end of the day, it came to his mind, and the rest, of course, you know the rest of the story. And my friend, that's what I want to share with you, whether it's being judgmental or whether it's being carrying grudges or revengeful feelings, is not only unhealthy for a person, but also drop those things and you'll see it creates amazingly beautiful, positive energies for everybody. This is your host, Rabbi Pearl. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a wonderful, good, happy Mother's Day. Sei gesund. Thank you to Stephen Weitz for joining us. And stay well. Thank you.